Know the Cause is proud to be sponsored by HealthQuest Technologies, Nutritech, North American Urban Spice, Bioactive Nutrients, Cedar Hill Seasonings, LifeWorks, and Long Life Unlimited.
Hey friends, welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us today. I am Doug Kaufmann, host of a show called Know the Cause with emphasis on know. Understand the etiology or the root cause of disease. In 1957, a great book was written, although they probably didn't know it in 1957, Clinical and Immunologic Aspects of Fungal Diseases. Today I'm going to tie this book, 50 years ago, in with something that just happened recently, and I'm going to introduce you to a guest you should know by now, Chris Chase. But Chris went out while I was doing all of this and got married, and Lisa is here today also in studio, so I'll introduce you to both of them. And they both want to talk about this Dana Reeves' death. She died of lung cancer. And folks, of course, Chris has represented with HealthQuest technology, has represented a technology that if indeed many of these deaths are due to something doctors don't understand, and that is airborne particulates, mold, etc., then maybe that could have been prevented. But let's go back to 1957. In this book, there's a chapter. This was at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. This was a medical textbook doctors had to read back in 1957. One of the headlines says, primary pulmonary coccidiomycosis. You won't be tested on this. What that means is somebody breathed this mold called Coccidio immitis. They breathed it, it stuck in their lung, and God forbid they then went and had an x-ray of their lung because it looked, says the book, just like cancer. So folks, what I want to talk about today is those of you living in this spotlessly clean environment. I mean, you dust every day, you wash the walls down, the bathtub's cleaned every week, the floors are cleaned once a day. And yet there may have been a leak at some time in that home. Maybe the toilet seal leaked at one time. Maybe you had a ceiling leak at some time, even before you bought it. Maybe when they built the home, it poured rain when they were putting up all the wood, and the wood just absorbed all of that moisture. Then, of course, we locked it in, as Chris teaches us all the time. The building industry, that's very common. Then you move into the home, and all of a sudden, your 7-year-old son has asthma, your daughter is beginning to gain weight, you suffer from depression, your husband has all sorts of stomach problems, and you never go back to something in that home causing those health problems. We're going to start with the Dana Reeves story, and then we're going to talk about some of the symptoms you have, and I get to introduce you to my new best friend. Lisa is her name. We'll be right back with more. Thank you for joining us today.
The next morning when I woke up, after we'd got the dog, I couldn't breathe. My nose was all plugged up, I was sneezing. He loaned me his Pionair air system. I put it in the apartment and haven't had any problems since.
Inductive warmth draws humidity into the Pionair unit, causing a photocatalytic reaction that creates negative ions and hydroxyl radicals. Indoor pollutants are positively charged and draw the negatively charged ions into the environment. The negative ions attach to the pollutants, allowing gravity to pull them out of the air. The hydroxyl radicals attach to microbials such as mold and bacteria and destroy them. The silent, maintenance-free Pionair system will surround your family with clean air, eliminating or reducing a variety of health problems. Pionair even offers a full 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 800-256-2300 or browse pioneer.net. Pioneer, clean air naturally.
Don't be fooled into thinking you can get all the nutrients you need from food alone. A supplement makes sense, but only one supplement gives you all the right nutrients, all the right quantities, and all the right forms. BioPlus Multivitamin Multimineral. 3 meals a day, 3 capsules a day.
I'm not just active, I'm bioactive.
BioPlus is just right for everyone, including children and nursing or pregnant women. Plus up your supplement intake with BioPlus.
You know, I'm sitting here reading this. Dana Reeves dies of lung cancer. And folks, that isn't what this show is all about. At 44 years young, 44 years young, she died. That isn't what this show is all about, because I don't know what happened to her lungs, but she didn't smoke. And they say that 20% of all women, you know, who are dying of lung cancer, and God knows how many men, don't even smoke. So what gets in their lungs and causes this disease that either mimics or is cancer? We're going to talk about that in a moment. First, though, I'd like to share with you a brand new relationship, a brand new marriage, and a woman that you've never met. All of you know and love Chris Chase. He appears on this show once or twice a month, sometimes 4 times a month, as often as I can get him on, because his technology has saved a lot of lives. I'm convinced of that. Well, a few years ago, Chris had a new best friend that worked around him, and all of a sudden, they got married. Lisa, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Doug.
It really doesn't happen like that, does it? I mean, you guys knew each other for a few years.
Exactly. We've known each other for about 5 years and just started with as being a friendship, and taught me how to play some golf and traveled and really just started a great relationship. And we were married back in November.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that's so great.
It seems like once the holidays came, it's been 4 months now, but it was a lot of fun. We were married in Puerto Rico. We had just our immediate family there, and made a little vacation out of it for everyone. So they had not been there, so it was a lot of fun. And then we went on a 2-week cruise. So
when Chris and you first met, did he come up to you and say, I got this technology you're not going to believe, this little black box, you see this thing, it can clean out this whole place? I mean, did you know about the Pioneer when you guys met?
I think we may have met before he actually was working with the product, and may have been in the process of developing it. But no, you never would look at the product and realize it does so much for you. And then he introduced it, of course, and we started using it in our home. And I actually have one in my office at my job, and it's just amazing how much easier I breathe and how much better I feel.
Lisa, you don't have any medical background, and I know Chris didn't either, and along comes this technology, and you're reading some of the letters and the emails that you guys get. How does that make you feel when a doctor can't help someone with a lung problem or an asthma problem, just prescribe drugs, and yet there may be something that's just as good, if not better?
Exactly, and it's true. I mean, I was reluctant at first, so I'm sure most people looking at the product, it's like this little black device that lights up. What's this going to do for me? And within several hours, I mean, we do a lot of cooking at home. We have one in our kitchen. You've got the onions and the garlics and all the good aromas, but you don't want those lingering 2 hours after you're finished eating. And it's usually within a couple hours you don't smell anything. So it eliminates all the odors, as well as dust, mold, mildews.
Yeah,
airborne bacteria.
It's exciting. Chris, welcome aboard. And by the way, in Texas, there are 3 words for what happened here. You done good. Congratulations. Congratulations on your marriage and continued success. I mean, Ruth and I have 26 years next week. We will have been married.
Congratulations.
So you guys.
She has a lot of, patience and that sort of
thing. She doesn't cook with garlic, so. I'm glad to see, though, that you're eating onions and garlic. I'm glad to hear this. Chris, you, like Lisa, were its biggest skeptic. I remember years ago when we first sat down and you said, Doug, this guy, good friend of mine, came up to me and said, just put this in your basement and everything will be fine. And you said, yeah. Now, I got to get up in the morning. I'll put it in my basement. And to get to your car, you had to go through the basement. Tell that story. That was fascinating.
Well, I mean, Lisa was there when, when this was going on, but it was really the guys that were initially involved in developing the technology brought it, and they started talking about light and photocatalysis and negative ions and all of these words that I was very familiar with at the time, and I'm going, but down in our basement we had a unusual odor, for just leave it that way, and we took the air unit down that night after dinner, and the next morning I got up, and you go down our basement into the basement out into the garage to get in the car, and I opened the door and fresh air hit me in the face instead of this odor, and it really was I guess an eye opener, to say the least, and it began I began getting serious about the technology and what the product, the potential for the product and that sort of thing. Of course, my interest at the time was more business or financial than anything else, and it's gone really full circle from that. Lisa and I, when we met, she, in fact, still does. She works at a country club that that I'm a member of, and I exposed her to some golf, and then she taught me how to play.
Are you a good golfer?
Well, no, I enjoy it. From what Chris says, I play better than my experience. I've played for about 3 years. He's a very, which I was surprised, very patient instructor, and so I now often have to remind him, it's just a game. We don't, we're out here to have a good time.
When Ruth and I first met many years ago, we went skiing one weekend with her parents. And I was not as patient as I thought, because I was an okay skier and she was brand new at it. And you want to stay with your girlfriend and slow down, and I end up just walking through it. So I know exactly what you're saying. Sometimes patience really pays off, though. It has with Ruth and I, and I'm sure it will with you guys. Tell me a little bit about the technology. You said photocatalysis, and before we go to the break, what I want people to do is have kind of a general understanding of what this does.
Well, it is it is the only air treatment system available that is totally quiet. It's quiet as a light bulb. The technology is engineered so that it begins when the light is turned on, and the light is focused on the target material, and when that light hits it, you trigger a photocatalytic reaction, and that's the beginning of what happens with the technology. Because it's light driven and because the technology is drawn out of the box and into the area that you're trying to treat, there's no need for a filter, so it's very low maintenance. You replace the lamp once a year in the technology. It is a technology that treats all three of your major categories of indoor air pollutants: particulate, dust, pollen, pet dander, microbial, mold spores, bacteria, viral, and then chemical, which odors are all part of the chemical chain. So it actually breaks down the molecular chain in odor, so you totally eliminate it. And so you got a technology that treats all three major categories of pollutants. It's quiet, it's low maintenance, and it works.
It does work. We have several of them. As a matter of fact, I lent one out to somebody living in a moldy home who's been diagnosed with cancer, so I want to talk more about that. We get back from this break, folks, we'll talk a little bit. I didn't know Dana Reeves. I'm sure many of you didn't either, but what happened there? What happened to this vibrant woman? Did the stress of her husband's illness really pique her or cause a downfall of her immune system? What happened? Was she living in a moldy environment? Could that mimic lung cancer? We'll be right back.
Alwyn's really the only formula that you'll find out there that has all of the amino acids along with the vitamins and minerals. These are all natural food nutrients, and they're combined in such a way that you don't need the non-nutritive additives that are necessary when you're combining and compressing a tablet. Now the research that's coming out and what doctors are finding is that you really do have to have a vitamin mineral supplement because of the way that food's transported, the way that it's cooked. People are now paying almost $3.50 for a cup of coffee, and that gets them jump-started in the morning. Imagine paying just a little bit over $1 or a little less than $1 and get comprehensive high-potency nutrition and know that that insurance is there for you all day.
Don't be fooled into thinking you can get all the nutrients you need from food alone. A supplement makes sense, but only one supplement gives you all the right nutrients, all the right quantities, and all the right forms. BioPlus Multivitamin Multimineral. 3 meals a day, 3 capsules a day.
I'm not just active, I'm bioactive.
BioPlus is just right for everyone, including children and nursing or pregnant women. Plus up your supplement intake with BioPlus.
Well, friends, we open the show with my reading you a little excerpt from this book, Clinical and Immunologic Aspects of Fungal Diseases, circa 1957, from Johns Hopkins, a medical textbook. In this textbook, it said that one fungus gets trapped in the lungs, and when they do x-rays, they can't tell whether it's fungus in the lung or lung cancer. We don't do chest x-rays anymore. Why? Because radium causes cancer. So the fewer x-rays you can have done, the better. And then we start dipping into mammographies, and I don't want to go there on this show. We're being exposed to radiation a lot. In this, now, Lisa, this is kind of interesting. You didn't know Dana Reeves, I didn't know Dana Reeves, but as you read this, there's one important thing that this news article said, and it said, from the start, Reeve, a non-smoker, expressed confidence she would heal from her lung cancer. A non-smoker. CBS, ABC, NBC, all the correspondents that did this had a doctor that came on and said, well, we don't understand why 80% of the women who smoke end up with lung cancer, but 20% of those who end up getting lung cancer don't. And you as a woman must be concerned. I mean, lung cancer is common in men also, but after reading something like this, at 44 years young, she's gone, she's passed. Makes you scared.
Yeah, it does, it really does. And it goes back to what Chris was just talking about with the, homemakers cleaning the products, everything in our daily lives that we're breathing in that we don't have any control over. Obviously we're trying to create a clean, healthy environment to live in, but ultimately you really need to think about what the products and stuff you're using and bringing into your
You were talking
body.
yesterday, you guys went out for a drive and ended up behind a big bus and this black plume of stuff entered, and you have to start thinking, what am I being exposed to?
Exactly, yeah, it's vehicles, cleaning products, your home, we live out on a farm. I don't know if Chris has ever talked about that before, but we're out where there's a lot of leaves and I'm an allergy sufferer, so the product has definitely helped my daily life.
We're going to talk in the second half of this show, folks. Don't go away, because as you know the cause, all of you get 2 half hours. In the second half of this show, I wanted to talk with Chris and Lisa a little bit about allergies. Millions of Americans suffer from them. Something more severe, something life-threatening on this show. I have to wonder, if a 50-year-old book, Chris, says that you can't differentiate between fungus in the lung or cancer in the lung, what are these women really dying of? Could it be a lung condition? And then, Chris, this is the little thing, I know Bill was going to shoot this if you can, Bill, because you mentioned some big words, and maybe we can cut away and take a look at this, because there you go, there's the clear bulb, but what is this stuff that, is growing, it looks like, out there?
What it is it's some proprietary metals that we use that enhance the photocatalytic reaction, that when light hits on the titanium dioxide and begins triggering the reaction, then those metals actually enhance the technology, make it more effective.
That's a catalyst, in other words.
Right.
So photocatalysis, that word seems like a big word.
Photo is light, not photography, but light. And catalysis is very similar to a catalytic converter that you have in your automobile, that sort of thing. And we're converting light energy and titanium dioxide into a technology that eliminates pollutants. That's the bottom line. And what we use to transport the technology out of the system and into the area that you're living in and that you're breathing in is what's called a negative ion. The area that we're in right now has a positive charge to it. So we put a negative charge on the technology, and what happens is that positive charge draws the technology out of the unit and into the area being treated. The significance of that is really twofold. Air is dumb. I mean, it doesn't know it's dirty. It doesn't know that it's got contaminants in it that when you breathe it may adversely affect your health. So what we do is we use the technology and we go out into the area, into the dirty air, and treat it and reduce the amount of contaminants that you inhale every day. The other thing that does is it eliminates the need for filters. And what's the big deal about that? Well, all of us in our air conditioning systems and that sort of thing have forgotten to change the filter, and you've reduced the effectiveness of the system itself. You don't need to worry about that with our technology.
I'm going to put the unit back in. It's so simple to use this, folks. It just drops right in, push it down, plug it in, switch it on, and you have a unit that will cover anything from a 350, a little master bedroom and bath, to a 1,500 square foot. We have one upstairs and one downstairs, and nobody lives upstairs anymore. We're empty nesters, so I guess we could move that one. I actually want to tell you something. We'll put up their telephone number right now, folks, and you go ahead and write it down. I'll leave it up for a minute and contact the company. I'm working with a gal who is living in a trailer, she and her husband, diagnosed with cancer, primary breast, but it's diffused through her body. It's gone all over the place. About 6 months ago, I went into the bank, and the girl working there was crying, and she's a friend of mine. I go in the bank, and I said, "What's wrong? Mom's been diagnosed with this horrible disease, and they're putting a unit in here so they can put the IVs and chemo." Well, she's doing wonderfully. But her doctor contacted me, and her doctor is fully aware of the Pioneer unit, and said, "Doug, we need to get her a Pioneer unit. Could you lend her one of yours?" Well, we took the one upstairs and lent it to her. This woman is doing wonderfully. We suspected that cancer, which is now metastasized to the lung, may have been mold in the first place. So we have tried this out, Chris and Lisa, and I'm telling you, you guys hear stories like this all the time, but God willing, she might really pull out of this.
Oh, great.
Doug, something that maybe is a little off the track, but I can't, listening to that, I can't help but mention it. Curcumin is a supplement that we recently have made available to people.
Turmeric. Yeah.
Right, and it's one of the things that science is beginning to study with the use of curcumin in combination with chemotherapy and radiation and that sort of thing. What it does is actually enables the body to tolerate those treatments better. It's also been shown to reduce the risk of certain cancers. And again, I'm not a physician, and I don't know the specifics of the cancer and that sort of thing, but it's something that you may want to suggest that she look into as well.
There's all sorts of things we're doing right now. Cinnamon, who'd have thought? I mean, that's another product you have. When Dr. Isidore Rosenfeld wrote about cinnamon and diabetes, who'd have thought? But it's interesting the way some of these genius doctors, not the guys who are robotic, but these genius doctors are really starting to write books. Look, guys, the paradigm is shifting. What's happening is the older doctors and our parents are dying, and a whole new generation is coming aboard that knew when they were kids that when mom changed their diet and took them off sweets and sodas and so forth, their hyperactivity tended to go away. That knew mom didn't want to run them to every pediatrician and give them every antibiotic on the book. So there's this whole paradigm shift in this whole mentality. If I live long enough, Chris, I'm going to be able to see the paradigm fully shifted to where every home in America, it'll be mandated. Can't get a mortgage without a Pioneer. We'll be right back.
Not only is All-One one of the oldest companies in the market and has one of the most complete formulas, but really when you look at it, it has the most value, the most bang for the buck of any supplement out there. We built All-One to take. We didn't start figuring we're going to market it somehow and come up with a price and build it to that. We build All-One up to a standard, not down to a price. In this industry, so many companies come and they go, and there's so many fads. But when you put together a comprehensive multiple like this that really works, you got something that's going to pass the test of time.
The next morning when I woke up, after we had got the dog, I couldn't breathe. My nose was all plugged up, I was sneezing. He loaned me his Pioneer air system. I put it in the apartment and haven't had any problems since.
Inductive warmth draws humidity into the Pioneer unit, causing a photocatalytic reaction that creates negative ions and hydroxyl radicals. Indoor pollutants are positively charged and draw the negatively charged ions into the environment. The negative ions attach to the pollutants, allowing gravity to pull them out of the air. The hydroxyl radicals attach to microbials such as mold and bacteria and destroy them. The silent, maintenance-free Pionair system will surround your family with clean air, eliminating or reducing a variety of health problems. Pionair even offers a full 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 800-256-2300 or browse pioneer.net. Pioneer, clean air naturally.
A dear friend of mine gave me this book some years ago. He was educated at Johns Hopkins University. This book says it's very difficult to differentiate between fungus and cancer. Folks, if they can't differentiate between those two, what about diabetes and fungus? What about infertility and fungus? What about weight gain and fungus? I've written a series of 8 books now that you can sit down and enjoy, one of them or all of them, from the Fungus Link 1 all the way to the study of what cancer really is. Call our office today. Friends, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. You know, during that break we were talking about what if? What if Dana Reeve, had lived in a moldy environment? This is fascinating. I know you've seen Chris in his kitchen probably put these little things together. This is turmeric, this is curcumin, folks. And this also, you've seen this on TV before. This is the color, and that's the same color of the capsule. What if, Lisa, she'd have taken curcumin for a year before? There are some pretty significant studies now coming out of the scientific literature that says you two are on the right track, because that paradigm is shifting and people are not going to be taking statin drugs to prevent Alzheimer's. The side effect of those drugs, we could do a whole nother show on that. But they are going to take things like cinnamon and curcumin and things like that, because the studies are starting to show their popularity. So as a woman, as someone who watched this happen, are you taking any precautions, any more precautions than normal?
Absolutely. I think we all need to be, as I mentioned before, more aware of our surroundings, what we're putting into our bodies, and if there's certainly something that we could use to increase our chances of whether you already have cancer, extending your life or preventing it, I definitely would give it a shot.
Can you clear up something for me real quickly before we go to the end of the show? And by the way, don't go away, because we're going to be right back and talk about allergies. I'm told that Chris has a headboard with 8 Pioneer units in it. Any truth to that at all? He's got like the cleanest house in all of America.
I would say no. We're both very busy people, and trying to keep on top of a house is a full-time job. But I would say that the air units definitely do make our life a lot better.
And thousands, thank you both, thousands of people are benefiting from this. You should see the email I get. In the second half, I want to talk to you a little bit, Lisa, because you got a promotion and ended up down in the basement of this building, wherein allergies and all sorts of heck broke loose in your life. So I want to talk with you a little bit about that. Chris, it's got to feel good as a guy rolling along in life to adapt this technology and to help so many people.
And to end up with a wonderful bride.
Isn't that great? Congratulations, you
Thank
guys.
you.
I think that's great. My audience is a little bit different audience. They really like to know the people first. And Chris stayed single, as far as I'm concerned, way too long. Now he's no longer single. Now you can break loose and buy that Pioneer. And I got to tell you, I really see a time in my lifetime when mortgage companies will say, you know what, if you put a Pioneer in, we'll give you the mortgage. Good deal. God bless you, folks. Bye-bye.